We're having such a great time in the green room talking about the Vonahi solution, and you are in for a treat today. If you are listening to the sound of my voice, you probably saw something about automated pen testing, maybe scratched your head a little bit and said, wait a second, those things are not synonymous. How can we do pen testing and how can it be automated? You can't automate that. It has to be manual. It involves a person and it's ridiculously expensive, and only 10% of your clients at best need a pen test. Well, you are in for a treat because we are about to crush some of those beliefs and give you an unbelievable opportunity to market your company and make some serious revenue. So I know those are big claims, but I know the people that are here with me today can live up to that. So I've got Alton Johnson, Alton. I always mispronounce it, Alton Johnson, and I've got Trammy Anderson, and they are with the Vonahi team. Guys, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves and just give a little bit of your story, and then we'll get right into our conversation today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Alton, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So Elton Johnson, founder at Vonahi, and yeah, so my background is really mostly with pen testing, right? So I've been hacking since I was 11 years old, and so I'm very, very familiar with the space, and just I've worked for several cybersecurity companies as a penetration tester, principal consultant, traveling all over the world, doing a lot of assessments for a lot of large companies, and so yeah, very excited and looking forward to the conversation.
I love how you're just like, I've been hacking stuff since I was 11. No big deal. Always ethically, I'm sure. Don't tell me if I'm wrong. So,
Yeah.
all right, Trammy, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm Trammy Anderson. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Vonahi Security, and my background has always been on design, user experience, and growth. And so, partnering with Alton, I think we work really well together because he's got an awesome platform that automates what he does as a hacker. And I think the biggest obstacle with any kind of SaaS platform these days is that user experience. And so, together, we really bring a new technology to the market, but making it easy to use and seamless and having that really easy experience for that user is key. And so that's kind of what Alton and I work on together to grow Vonahi. And we're just excited to talk to you today. And we love meeting you at IT Nation. So I'm excited.
Awesome. And for those of you that were at IT Nation, if you're looking at them and saying they look really familiar, yes, they participated in Pitch It, and they won second place. Got some funds that we're going to talk in a few minutes about what they're going to use with those funds, how they're going to use those funds. But I want to back step just a little bit and talk about pen testing. So obviously, we're talking about how Alton did pen testing manually and has been a hacker since he was 11. But I want to define some terms because inside of this industry and even outside of the industry, there's terminology that is there. Sometimes these terms are thrown around as if they're synonyms, and they aren't necessarily synonymous with one another. So I want to talk about pen testing. I want to talk about vulnerability scanning, maybe even security assessments or network assessments. Those are not synonyms. And so I want to start here because it is important, especially if you're an MSP where a client is coming to you and saying, I really need to get a pen test done, or I really need to get a vulnerability assessment done. And perhaps it's because their client told them to have it done. And you're saying, oh, yeah, I can do that. No problem. It is super important that you understand what they're looking for so that you can deliver the right thing. So, Alton, let me have you speak to this first. Pen test versus vulnerability assessment, lots of terms. Can you help unconfuse us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to your point, right, it's been a very confusing thing for a lot of companies for the last like 5, 10 years, pretty much since I started my career professionally. And vulnerability assessments, we're all familiar with it. We all have used Nessus, Rapid7, Qualys, right? So basically, we're all familiar with those tools. But vulnerability assessments, the goal of those is just to let you know what the vulnerabilities are at a surface level, right? So they do some very basic fingerprinting. They kind of do some discovery, and they say, hey, based on this version, right, you could be vulnerable to this, and this is why this could be bad, right? So it's a lot of it might be bad if somebody was to get access to your environment and do something crazy with it. Like it doesn't get very too specific about how it could actually be used. On the penetration testing side, the main focus is to demonstrate impact, right? So now that you know about your vulnerabilities, what could really happen with it, right? And so you typically want to get a penetration test when you want that proof, right? Not just saying, "Hey, the door's unlocked," but what happens if somebody actually went inside the door? Like, what could they find? Like, show it to me on a document, right?
Mm.
That's what the penetration test is. It's the proof of the vulnerabilities and the impact of those vulnerabilities.
I love that. So sometimes when I'm talking to MSPs that are newer to these terms, I liken it. There was a TV show, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, where um, c- um, homeowners would hire someone to break into their house, and they would sign, waivers, and if you break my door, I'm not going to sue you, like all the things. And then all they knew is that sometime in the next 90 days, the not bad guy, but the guy you just contracted is going to show up at your home, and they're going to attempt to break in. And it was a fascinating show because, of course, the homeowners were super confident because they had just invested in an alarm system and unbreakable windows and like all the things. And then the bad guy, the white hat, breaker inner, would study their patterns and would be like, okay, every Saturday at 10:30, they leave to go grocery shopping and the kids are at soccer and the home is completely vacant. And of course they would get in because, if they didn't get in, it wouldn't make it on the air. But the homeowners were always shocked, number one, that their levels of security were not enough. And then the emotional impact when it was like, my wedding picture, the frame got broken, or oh my
Mhm.
goodness, they stole the flat screen TV, or oh my goodness, they went into my baby's room and threw the clothes around. And so it was a twofold, like how did your defenses fail, but then how did this impact your house? And obviously
Mhm.
most of those things were, loss of things or broken or whatever, and they would replace them, of course, in the end. But that emotional feeling, even though it was a contracted thing that they paid for, was still very real. And so
Mhm.
I like that. So a pen test is, we're finding the vulnerabilities, but we're also telling you what the impact would be on your organization, which is how sales are made, by the way. And okay, so a pen test, ballpark figure, if I don't know, a 20-person company was going to hire a pen testing organization, what should that cost? Ballpark. I mean, are we
Yeah.
talking? Yeah,
So like,
yeah,
oh, sorry.
no.
I've seen like a very tiny penetration test of like 5 IP addresses cost like 5, 6 grand, right? Which is pretty wild, right? I've also seen some pen test engagements that are like 50 grand, kind of towards like some of the larger companies. But yeah, for a company with a size of like maybe 5 to 10 IP addresses, I mean, they shouldn't be spending 10 grand plus for that, right? I mean, maybe 3 to 4 grand seems a little bit reasonable, depending on some of the other things in the scope of work. But yeah, it's extremely expensive in the traditional world just because of all of the manual labor that's required to execute those engagements. Just the other day, we actually saw in a different conversation someone offering a penetration test for like 2 grand per IP address,
per
which
IP.
which is way too expensive.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was gonna say there's like two different ways that it's priced, right? It's either that flat pricing, or it's like a flat $5,000 or $6,000 pricing, or it's by IP address.
Hmm.
So we've seen it done both ways. If you're having to pay like anywhere from 1,000 north of that per IP address for an internal or external network pen test, personally for us, that's way too much. Like, come talk to us instead.
So I'm going to say this just so that I'm not going to make the Vonahi team say this, but it's very important for you to know, if you're an MSP listening to this, it's very important for you to know what you actually are procuring from your vendor, because there are vendors that know MSPs are looking for pen tests. So let me call this thing that I'm selling a pen test when it is not. And so if you're paying, I don't know, $12 for a pen test, it's not a pen test.
Yeah.
Are there other pieces of evidence or other tells that an MSP would be able to say, this is not really a pen test? I need to make sure I know what I'm buying.
I
Any
would I
tips?
would
Yeah.
tell that MSP to ask which vulnerabilities did you exploit? That's the biggest difference, right? Because that vulnerability scanner will just identify. It's not going to exploit anything. So the biggest thing is if you're looking at that report or if you're talking to that vendor, ask them for proof. Like, what exactly did you exploit? Show me what you did. Have that evidence, because that's what we show in our reports for our pen testing engagements. And
So it's
Alton, I'm
almost
sure you.
like a proof of life. Like, show me that you actually got in, and not just that you
Mhm.
found something, but that you actually were able to take advantage of that gap or that issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and even ask for a sample report. Like if they're saying that they're offering penetration testing, get a sample report and make sure that that report has impact. Like it's demonstrating impact. Because if they show you a sample report and it's just like SSL vulnerabilities or just something very low, it's just kind of surface level, and there's no evidence, proof, and like real impact in the sample report. I mean, you would imagine that the sample report is probably the best report that you want to present to your customers. So if their sample report doesn't have proof of like exploiting something, it's most likely just a vulnerability assessment.
I
Yeah.
love
And
it.
and there are some vulnerability vendors that, they give you this report and it's this crazy long report and there's all
Mhm.
these things. So if you're an MSP and you don't know the difference, you're like, okay, yeah, this looks great, right? But if you're looking for a pen test report, expect that report to be a little bit more concise and condensed. If you have
Mhm.
a pen test report and it's got hundreds of vulnerabilities on there, that's I would be skeptical, because a pen test
Mhm.
report, Alton, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually there's like 5 to 10 pen test findings out of, if we're doing a security assessment and there's, 100 or 200 vulnerabilities, that pen test finding is probably only going to show like 5 or 10, because that means out of those 200 vulnerabilities, we've exploited those to see if we can go any deeper. And then the pen test results will show 5 or 10 that we were able to exploit and the impact of that. So for
Yeah.
me, that's a telltale of, if you're getting a vulnerability scan or a pen
Yeah.
test.
Yeah, and
That's
sometimes up to like 15 too. But like to Trami's point, I mean, if you've got 100 vulnerabilities in a pen test report, they're probably fluffing it up with a lot of vulnerability assessment findings. So that's just typically not the focus, on the impact. So,
fascinating, because I would have thought that more was better, and I totally get it now. That is requiring my brain to do a little bit of gymnastics to wrap my head around that, but it makes complete sense. Okay, so Alton, I want to shift a little bit to your journey. So you said you've been hacking things ethically since you were 11, and so help us understand that journey, and that ultimately you did so many of these pen tests that you arrived at the concept that you could automate them. But give me
Mhm.
that journey just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I got hacked when I was 11 years old. Back then, right? They call them script kiddies. People that don't know how to code, they just use tools and just hack people, right? And so the person showed me how they did it, and I was very interested in how it happened. Just very weird stuff started happening. CD-ROM opening and closing, printer started printing stuff. I was freaking out, right? I was like, how do you do this? I need to figure this out so I can do it as well. And so, so I so I started learning how to code in like Visual Basics, and I was very involved in like AIM, AOL back in the day. And so over time, I did it for a few years, freaked out at one point, stopped doing it, and I realized you can get paid to do it legally as an adult, as a part of a career. And so when I first started when I had my first opportunity, I really just went back and started studying, got my OSCP, my OSCE, and was really just like super dedicated to like proving myself as a penetration tester. And over the years, there's a lot of things that I noticed were like very inconsistent, very inconvenient. Like specifically reporting. I mean, you can ask any pen tester in the world, "Do you like reporting?" And there's a 90% chance they're going to say, "No, I hate it. I just want to hack." Right? And that was kind of me at the time, right? I just wanted to just focus on hacking. And so I had some ideas behind automating reporting and propose those ideas to previous companies, and it was just very challenging at the time. And so me as a person who knows how to code, I figured, well, I mean, I could do this myself, right? I don't know why this is so hard. And so I ended up coding an automated reporting framework. And so I started automating the reports. No one even knew because they were exactly the same, right? It's the same quality, no typos, just very, very polished. And that's what kind of, got me into thinking, you know what, I could automate a lot more of just, my job as opposed to just reporting. There's a lot of other repetitive things that I was doing all the time on every engagement that I was doing. And that's kind of, that's what Vonahi is based on, really, just that those inconveniences as a penetration tester, doing a lot of things manually that doesn't have to be manual, and us having experience with coding and hacking, we've just combined the two to really, build a powerful solution that can help out a lot of MSPs.
I love it. Okay, so if you are just joining us, I'm chatting with the team at Vonahi. They have an automated pen testing solution. And I know you're thinking, no, they don't. There's no way they do. They do. They won me over. I chatted with them before IT Nation, before the Pitch It finalists were announced, and it's phenomenal. So definitely take a look at them. Get on their website, vonahi.io, schedule a demo, have a deeper conversation, put them through their paces. I am very confident that they're going to win you over as well. So, I want to shift just a little bit. A question came in. I think this is an awesome question. So let me share this. This is from Eric. He wants to know. So, Alton, this is for you. Like, what do you tell people? Non-cybersecurity people, like just average Joe walking down the street. What do you tell them that you do for a living?
What I explain to people is that I get paid to hack companies to find vulnerabilities and help them stay out of the news, right? And that's the simplest way to, because if you say I'm a hacker, and then they're like, "Oh, my Wi-Fi at the house, can you get my net?" Like
Yes.
my Netflix password, I forgot it. Instagram. So I try to, I've had to like revise the message over the years because I don't want to end up in those situations. But yeah, I just tell people that I get paid to hack companies to basically help them stay out of the news and find their vulnerabilities.
See,
Yeah,
I'd
because
be like,
we would get people hitting us up like, "Hey, my Instagram got hacked. What should I do?" We're like, "No."
that's not what we do. We might have been the ones. Nope, never mind. We were not the ones to hack it. See, I would be so tempted to be like, did you see that movie where the guy hacked into the Pentagon? Well, that's what we do, except we're paid to do it. Like I don't know. I think it's awesome. So I don't know how I would explain what I did for a living, especially if it's someone that's just an average Joe that may not have
Mhm,
any idea that there's people like you that exist. I know
mhm,
maybe 3 months ago, I posted on my Facebook profile, how many ethical hackers do I have in my network? Because I want a list of those when my clients need them. And so the
mhm,
number of people that were like, excuse me, what's an ethical hacker? Like those seem like they're contrary to one another. And so to me, it was just a normal term and I've used it for years, but to the average person, they don't understand what that is. So I
mhm.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Okay.
Yep.
So don't do it my way, do it your way. I'm good with that. Okay, so so you've realized as you're going through this journey, you realize that you can automate some of these pieces, and then you decided that you wanted to focus on MSPs. So how did that transition happen?
Yeah, so for us, when we were starting out, we were trying to figure out, okay, we figured out how to automate Alton's job, and we know it's necessary in the market. How do we even get it out there? So we were kind of going after all types of businesses, right? We were just trying to see like where is that market need fit. Then we posted something on. We didn't even post. It started out with Reddit. Thank you, Reddit. Someone posted a question on Reddit in the MSP subreddit, and Alton jumped in and he helped answer it. And then next thing you know, we found out that there was a promo thread where vendors can just promote on there. So we promoted automated pen testing on there. And then we've gotten MSPs, interested. They schedule a couple of demos. And then in about 3 or 4 months, we signed up our first MSP. And then that was the start. And so we kind of shifted gears because our messaging at first was, hey, we help all businesses. Anyone could use this. And then once we got our first MSP, we're like, all right, how do we make this work for MSPs? And so the first year that we launched it, it was a lot of like learning about the MSP business, having it multi-tenant, white labeled, all those features evolved because we were working with more MSPs. And so today I'm so happy to say that we went from 0 to 275 MSPs since we launched about 2.5 years ago.
That's
Yeah, and
amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, Jennifer, it was very funny too because when we had our first demo and we were like, "So how did you hear about us?" And they were like, "Reddit." We were like, "Reddit? Like
Yeah.
what? What do you mean Reddit?" So,
We
but yeah,
spent zero marketing dollars the first 2 years because for me, I was in charge of overseeing marketing. I had no budget. We were bootstrapping it. And so that community building is key right now. I mean,
Yes.
and it helped us grow. And so for me, I'm such a big advocate for getting involved with these communities and talking to MSPs and even the skeptical ones. I mean, some conversation starts off really skeptical, but the thing about our team is we don't add any pressure. We're here to help. We talk them through, we help explain things. And I feel like that goes a long way. And now a lot of our MSP partners are really good friends, and we have that open dialogue. And that's how we grow. That's how they grow. And together, I think we can help a lot of businesses protect their networks.
And we've got a couple of comments coming in. Keith is saying he's got his appointment. He's ready to sign up. So definitely some really, really good momentum that you guys have. I'm very, very excited for 2023 and beyond. And so one of the things that I loved, and I know this is not in place yet, so I'm future casting just a little bit, but just piggybacking on the idea of believing in the MSP community, you are working on an initiative where MSPs can use your services for their own internal networks absolutely free. If you're hearing the skepticism in my voice, that is genuine. Tell me about that. And do they have to be a paying client? Because sometimes, like, yeah, it's free, but only if you onboard, 100 of your clients or something like that. So what are you doing there? What's the motivation behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we honestly believe in our platform so much that, and the thing is not only do we believe in our platform, but automation allows us to scale. I mean, we've completed 7,000 assessments this year, but our platform is capable of handling 10,000 assessments per month before we need to scale up our infrastructure. So for us, it's like, man, let's just let them have it for free, because I know that if they use it, they'll understand the value in it. They'll understand how easy it is to use it. And then we can start working on sales enablement materials to help the MSPs sell pen testing to their clients. But first, it's mainly to help them protect their own business, right? Like, I know how stressed out MSPs are. I've become friends with a lot of them, and they work around the clock. They're on call on Sundays, and it's a lot of pressure for them. And so if they can pen test their own network and just have that peace of mind that, like, hey, my home is safe, I can help others, right? So that's the whole initiative for it. And it's not officially launched yet. We're working on a lot of the automated onboarding process to make sure that we can, onboard as many MSPs as possible. But, we have a landing page, so you can sign up right now. And we plan to launch early next year with our Pitch It funds.
Fantastic. Okay, so inevitably we are seeing a number of technical questions coming through. So let's answer a couple of those. But my honest advice is, like, okay, let's get some of these preliminary questions answered, but then definitely schedule a demo. If you're happy with the answer, schedule a demo and pepper them with questions. But I do want to cover some of these. So does the automated pen testing apply to networks or web apps or both?
Just the network.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Exactly.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
So
it.
it's internal and external network is what we focus on. So we automate the network pen testing. Obviously, there's lots of platforms out there that do other things like automating web apps. But for us, we just focus on that network infrastructure.
Okay. The next one is from Eddie. He is asking, since there's no manual verification because everything is automated, how do you avoid false positives and ensure true accuracy?
Yeah. So in building out platform, that's obviously one of the things that we want to stay away from, because a lot of vulnerability scanners, they could typically produce, noise that you don't need to pay attention to. So what we do is we have ways to, like, automatically verify, like, the evidence, right? So we know what evidence looks like that tells us, the vulnerability exists, right? Because we've exploited it so many times. So we have a lot of patterns like that can like help us reduce the noise and stay true to, like, the penetration test. So typically, we've had some, support tickets where people thought that certain things were false positives because they could reproduce it. And then we pull up the evidence and it's like, well, we can't make up the evidence. Here it is. I mean, this is impossible for us to make this up, right? So, but we also have a process too that, like, if we see stuff that we haven't identified before, we actually have our team to go in and kind of validate that, hey, this is something that we could add to the platform to improve it, right? Whether it's from a validation perspective or if it's something that we need to add into the process to automate the next exploit. So we do keep down false positives by proving it in every single finding.
Awesome. So if you are just joining, if you're intrigued by what you're hearing about automated pen testing, maybe you're starting to be a little less skeptical, get on a demo, go out to the Vonahi website. You can see that on your screen and schedule a demo, pepper them with questions. I guarantee you there's probably almost nothing they haven't heard at this point, although you may come up with something new, and that's okay too. So ask them your tough questions. Make sure this is going to meet your needs. I'm so excited to introduce them to you if you were not familiar with them before. So we're talking, oh, hold on, one more item in the chat. Okay, how much information is required to start besides just internal, external IP addresses and ports?
Mhm. Yeah, so when it comes to like using our scheduling wizard, basically all you need is a company name, their IP addresses that you want to target, and that's it. Now we go out, we do the discovery ourselves, we do the exploitation ourselves, we do all of the post exploitation and reporting, the entire 9 yards. So that's why the platform is so easy to use because you don't need to spend typically with a traditional pen test, you have to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes talking. At the end of the day, you really get the IP addresses in a domain and basically what to do and what not to do, right? So we've basically consolidated that into a very easy, straightforward scheduling wizard. So but you can also add things like credentials if you want to like add value, in that way as well. But at a very minimum, all you need is the IP addresses that we can take it from there.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
also for internal network security assessments, we also need to deploy an agent. So Alton, if you want to talk about it, it takes about 30
Yeah.
minutes to deploy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I know I'm biased, but it's so easy. Like so just to paint the picture a little bit, I used to, as a pen tester at previous companies, I used to actually have to manage the virtual machines for, a few of the companies. And I would, make sure it's up to date. The other pen testers would have the customers download the virtual machine and things like that. But I've taken that process and I've like automated a lot more of that, right? So we had basically for us, you just have to install Ubuntu and you run one command. That's it. That's it. So you don't have to, you know, open up a bunch of change logs and going back and forth with your team and all of that. It's a very, very I mean, we sit here and think all the time, like, how do we make this even easier? And we struggle because it's already so easy,
Yeah, it's true. And I wanted to bring that up because it is a pain point for a lot of MSPs. It's like you will get the most value for doing an internal pen test, but you've got to deploy an agent. And that happens today with manual pen testing. Like it's got to connect somewhere, right? And so we've made it as simple as possible, but MSP is like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm like, it takes 30 minutes. They're like, oh, I don't have time. Because in their mind, they think, oh, it's a complicated task. But then once they do it, they're like, oh, wait, that's it. You guys did a lot of stuff. This is easy. So for me, it's like, get over that fear. Like if you are serious about protecting a company, your clients or your own business, like spend that 30 minutes, deploy that agent. It takes 10 minutes after that to schedule the assessment, and then we do the rest. So yeah, I think it's in under an hour you can get a pen test kicked off. I think it blows my mind still. I still think it's like magic what we do here.
And is it 30 minutes of active time or is some of it just watching the water boil?
That's pretty much it. I mean, because like you click a few buttons to like accept the default stuff, right? As it's installing, but that's literally it. I mean, you're just watching the screen, waiting for the next input. And then in some other cases, if they already have a virtual machine deployed, right, they could just run the script, and that's 2 minutes maybe if they make a few
See,
typos. So
I'm thinking you run the script, you go get your cup of coffee, you play with the dog for 2 or 3 minutes, and you come back and it's done. I mean, it couldn't be a whole lot easier than that. And maybe that's even like a marketing campaign, right? Like with your first paid client, we'll send you a Starbucks card, hit go, click 3 buttons, run to Starbucks, get your coffee, come back, and by the time you're back, it's done.
That's a good idea. I should start giving people swag to just deploy the agent.
Yes, I love it. That's a good idea too. And that is always the challenge is that MSPs, they know they need a service like this, but they're so busy and they get distracted and they get, those pesky clients that need them to like do things.
Yeah.
And so that is going to probably always be one of your biggest challenges. So
Always.
that may be your next thing in 2023 if you can figure out how to not make them do anything and you can somehow, I don't know, magically make it happen.
Alton, can
that
you
would be
just make
amazing.
it happen?
Yes, just make
Just
it
do it,
happen.
Alton.
Yep, just do it. Come on.
Do it for the team.
All right. So I don't even understand this question, but can the agent run as a Docker configured for the host network instead of an actual VM also?
Yeah, so we actually leverage Docker as a part of our process as well. But right now, you do need the virtual machine. But yeah, so there's ways we can make that work for them.
Okay. This one I actually understand. So I'll share this one on the screen. So Keith is saying,
That's
can we
Sean's
create?
dad.
Yeah.
I know, Sean's dad. Hi, Sean's dad. Could we create an appliance and reuse that on
Mhm.
sites?
That's
Yep.
exactly yeah, that's exactly one of our partners. Actually, we have several partners that do that. In fact, it got to a point where we had to like reach out to a partner and say, "Hey, you might want to update this thing because you've been using it for 2 years, you know." So it's
Oh,
very easy for them to kind of like, you ship it to one customer, do the pen test, take it back, wipe and reload the same base image, ship it to the next customer. So it's very, very mobile or portable, or I guess. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. And guys, if you're not on LinkedIn, so we're streaming live to multiple platforms right now, but on LinkedIn, the Vonahi team is like stepping up and saying, send us your tough questions. So definitely drop those in the chat, or you could really just ask your tough questions in live in a demo. So go out to vonahi.io, schedule a demo, ask those tough questions. This may be a little bit difficult for some of us, myself included, to wrap your heads around, like how automated is automated? Is this really a pen test or not? Obviously, you can talk about pricing and things of that nature, find out information about how you can use this on your own network. That is often the best way to put a product through its paces, is to use it on a network you're the most familiar with. You may be shocked or horrified at what is found. So I want to actually ask that question, obviously without mentioning any names, but Alton, maybe in the last 6 months, have you had any horror stories inside of actual MSP networks that you like kind of give us a quick story about?
You should talk about the
I
pie
was
hole.
I don't know if I already I
So
can't
we
remember that
had
one.
we had we had one
Uh-huh.
MSP. Yeah, while you think of the juicy story, I'll give you the quick short one. We had one MSP that thought his network was pretty secure, but VPN test found a Raspberry Pi hole that he had on his network that he used
Yeah.
to block ads, and that was the biggest gateway into his network because when he moved to a new environment, he forgot that it was there, and it ended up just being the biggest gateway into his environment. And so yeah, that was a very fun one, and he actually wrote us back, and that's kind of what sold him on the product.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and
Alton?
yeah, I would say it's not necessarily a horror story, but like one that kind of got a little crazy on their side is that, and I guess it moved a little bit faster than they anticipated. And so basically, we had a really large, well, we still have them, really large customer that scheduled a penetration test, and like stuff just started kicking off so quickly that they was trying to chase after VPN test's activities, and they got so crazy that they were trying to chase it down. They couldn't like pin it down and necessarily get rid of it. And by the time they did, we had already had access to like domain admin on two different domains. It really got pretty wild, and they were all scrambling trying to trying to really pinpoint exactly how we exploit the initial attack vector, and how we were able to get as far as we did so quickly.
Crazy.
So that was
Wow.
a big conversation. Yeah.
Yes, no doubt. Okay, so in keeping with the theme of community, which we talked about just a couple of minutes ago, and that you were blown away by the Reddit thread and how you were starting to get inbound traffic from a Reddit thread, this community is extremely tight knit. That's one of the amazing things about the MSP world and the vendor community as well. So you are starting an initiative called the V Community. Can you tell us about it? Like, what is it? What's the goal? Who is it right for? And maybe give us an idea when it might be launching.
Yeah, so V Community started out as an initiative as part of Pitch It. We were part of the ConnectWise Pitch It program. And we were thinking, okay, what are we going to do with the funds if we win? And we thought, well, like I said, like we have the bandwidth to scale the amount of assessments that we have. And so for us, we thought, if we offer this for free for MSPs to use on their own network, they can protect their own network. And then as part of the community, we would work on sales enablement materials to kind of help them sell pen testing to their customers after they're using it on their own network already and familiar with the product. And so we're planning on launching that in Q1 of next year. But right now, you can definitely go to vonahi.io vCommunity and sign up and get in the queue. So as soon as we launch, you'll be the first ones to onboard. But yeah, that's why we wanted to launch vCommunity. It all started out with that community effort. And I agree. The community for the MSP space is very tight knit. It's very strong. And so for us, having that community mindset as our first kind of like touch point, I think will really help us gain adoption as well. Because what I understand, there's skeptics out there, you know, as a marketer, I hate watching other marketers add more noise to the market. I've seen websites where it's like, oh, we do automated pen testing. And then right underneath it says it's a vulnerability scanner. And it makes my blood boil because I believe in ethical marketing, right? I don't like to do shady tactics. I don't like to use, we've had competitors use Vonahi in their Google AdWords campaign. And you know, like I would have to report them and be like, that's trademarked, so take that down. But I'm not a fan of like dirty tactics in marketing or marketers that just, you know, create a lot of like noise, you know, like just if you have a good product, be honest about it, have that transparency. And that's what I like to do with our messaging, you know, like, do we claim that we're going to catch everything? No. You know, like no security product is going to be perfect or catch everything. And we don't claim that. We're just saying, hey, if you're paying a lot of money for a manual pen test, there's a better way to do it. And here's how we do it. And like, is a manual pen tester always going to be like, are they always going to deliver a perfect pen test? You know, if they're sick, if something's going on, are they going to deliver a perfect, you know, pen test? But with automation, it is going to be very consistent, you know, like that piece of code that we were able to put together, it's not going to get tired, it's not going to get sick, it's just not going to go. And so that's what we're trying to solve in the market. So for me, I'm like, please just be transparent with your marketing message, and then we wouldn't have this problem of, you know, the difference and the confusion and the skepticism.
Yes, because there is a place for a vulnerability assessment.
There
You're not
is.
saying
Vulnerability assessments are so
bad.
important.
Right, right. Yeah, it's so interesting. So one of my mentors always says that people get tired, systems don't. And so that applies to your solution as well, is that,
I like
you
that.
know, human pen testers get tired, they get lazy, they get forgetful, they don't follow the SOP, like what all the things that people do because people are human. But automation doesn't. Automation isn't going to look at a line of code and say, I don't feel like following that today. Or, well, that was dumb. I don't know why they put that step in there. It's just going to happen. And so the results are a more consistent product and more consistent offer. So I love it.
Yeah.
And
the key to automation is it's driven by humans. I mean, Alton is the one writing the code that automates this. So it's not like we're using AI code to automate something and, you know,
like those
and hope.
crazy AI, like the AI blog writers out there that sometimes they're really good and sometimes they're really, really bad. So you're not using AI to write your code, which is very reassuring. And then I always love it when existing partners come on. And so Christy is over on LinkedIn and she is saying, we use this at our MSP. It's a great tool, makes the conversation with clients on security and services so effective. So if you're an MSP and you're wondering, you know, is this, yes, exactly. This is the real deal. This is not vaporware. Like, go have a conversation with the team. Let me drop that link on the screen. Schedule your demo, ask tough questions. You should. This is not something that you want to just make a decision on, you know, with the snap of a finger. So ask your tough questions. Don't pull your punches, but be prepared to be won over by the team because this is an amazing solution. So any last minute thoughts, anything that we did not cover that you wish we would have?
I just want to point out that I really appreciate you rocking the red.
Yeah, seriously.
That's true. I always try to have red on, and it's so festive this time of year as well.
Yeah.
So we can all match. I like the background. Alton, I'm a little jealous of your background.
You like the,
yeah, that is amazing. And that's not fake, right? That's really painted.
No, you can get that on Etsy.
Oh,
It's a decal.
nice.
It's a wall decal.
Y'all, look at him
Yeah.
moving his camera around. I'm telling you, he knows what he's doing.
I know. Why don't you give me some tips, Alton?
Right? Hook Trammy up, man. She needs a mixer board or whatever it is that you're using to move the camera around. Oh, I love
I got
it. All
caught up
right,
on
let
an
me
Instagram ad. Yep.
there
Yeah,
you
no, we just
go.
want to thank you again for having
Mhm.
us. And for everyone that's watching, I do encourage you to schedule a demo. Try it out. We also do a free trial. So a lot of MSPs, if you guys don't have a large network and your stuff is secure, we believe you. We also do a free trial, so you can actually try it out on one of your clients' networks instead. We don't, again, like our sales team is super awesome. We don't have any sales pressure. We're not here to meet any quotas. So just reach out. We're super friendly and we're just here to help.
Awesome. All right, and Eric, I think you were asking about the camera. Insta360. Is that the camera type, style, brand, whatever?
Yeah, I saw it like in an email. It might have been an Instagram ad. I buy lots of stuff through ads, and
I'll be
but yeah,
buying it and expensing it to Vonahi. Thanks, Alton.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Jennifer causes trouble without trying.
We like a little trouble at Vonahi. Yeah, I like giving Alton trouble.
Yeah, stir it up just a little bit.
That's how we keep the teamwork alive.
I love it.
Yep.
Oh, you guys are amazing. Guys, listen, you guys heard it here. This is the real deal. I know we were making jokes about, starting hacking at age 11 and making jokes about how Alton knows how to use the camera, therefore he's a good pen tester, but give it a shot. I mean, give it a try. Give it put it through its paces. Make sure that you are thrilled with it. If you're not, give them feedback. But they're not getting that. They're not getting that message. What they're getting is this is like the best thing ever. So have a conversation with them. Make sure that it fits your needs, and make sure that you understand what a pen test is and when that is right for your clients. Get that demo scheduled and have them as in your Rolodex or in your network. Phenomenal people to have a conversation with as well about security.
Yeah,
Man,
help
this
help us
time,
fight the
absolutely.
skepticism.
Yes, despite the skepticism,
Yeah.
go in skeptical. I bet 30 or 40% of your sales calls start out just a little skeptical, and that's okay. Go in, bring them your sales objections, and I bet they're able to overcome them. So, you guys, amazing. I love the conversation. I feel like we could chat for another half an hour. I want to talk about so much. All right, so Eric is also going to spend money on Alton's camera. So there's a little win. But good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I so
I
appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you,
Likewise.
Jennifer. Have a great
Yeah,
weekend,
absolutely.
everyone.
You too.